So as of recording, we have about 2 days remaining on the Lordly Summon Pool, and I haven't really dived into what champions are good, which ones are okay, which ones are bad, and whether or not it's really worth spending any money on trying to pull any of these champions. In a previous video, I have covered how you can get a free pull from the Augustan Frenzy tournament. That is ending in about 10 hours as of this recording. Probably going to be about 5 to 8 hours remaining by the time this video goes live. But let's take a quick look at these champions. First off, you have a 1% chance for either one of the headline champions, which totals 2%, that being Edward Kenway, as well as Aislinn the Stalwart. And then on Legendary, you have a 0.5% chance on getting any one of these Legendaries, totaling up to a 4%, as well as about 11% of picking up any one of these specific epics that total up to 94%. So, judging by the Ayumi Love ranking list for all of these champions, all the champions that are rank S specifically, total to about 27%. So you'll have about a 27% chance of pulling an S tier champion from this roster, according to Ayumi Love and Hell Hades. And then on the OK pulls, which is A tier and below, you're talking more towards a 49% chance. And then anything from B tier and below, you're looking at 24%. So which are the S tier champions? Well, the first is a no-brainer. That is Edward Kenway. That is because we've talked about him in the past on this video. He slows down champions, all enemies. He steals all their buffs, and then he does more damage to those that he ensnares. 20% more damage. As well as being able to apply a perfect veil on all assassins. So if you have Cassandra, Basim, Ezio, they're all going to be so much more powerful with Edward Kenway on that team. Now, it's not the end of the world. You can go ahead and get Bayek from a different event that will eventually be coming. He can do the same thing as Edward Kenway. So if you don't pick him up, you can at least pick him up, Bayek. But either one of those champions is good. But Edward Kenway is one of the top 2 champions from the Assassin's Creed collab. So if you pick him, that is probably the best champion you can pull from the pool there. Next up is Stultus Dragonbane. Now, Dragonbane's pretty good because he's kind of considered one of the best defense-based nukers in the game, and he's incredibly tanky while dealing massive damage, making him perfect for the likes of hard Doom Tower, Waves, and Arena. So if you're able to pick him up, that will definitely help you much later down the line with your account. And then next up, we have Sephalaya. Now, she's a premier support champion, and her ability to strip buffs off the enemy and then cleanse and heal your team on a short cooldown makes her pretty invaluable on the likes of Arena as well as high level dungeons. So if you pull her, she will definitely be someone that I think you can apply to most of your average team rosters, especially if you're a intermediate player nearing more towards a new player. So she has a lot of good uses there. Now, the next S champion is actually in the epics, that being Stag Knight. Stag Knight is such a classic, really strong epic that you kind of want to be able to pick up. That being because he has lead the pack. Once you resist a buff from an enemy, you immediately get 50% increased accuracy on that champion. So he's really useful for making teams that don't have to focus too much on accuracy. Instead, you can build all of that into resistance instead, just by having Stag Knight there. And then, of course, he just applies a strong 60% decrease defense and a strong 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns on all enemies. This is incredibly, incredibly strong. All you need to worry about with him is just simply applying lots and lots of accuracy, lots of defense, and health. And then the rest of your team can just nail the rest of the damage, because these are 2 really, really strong debuffs that you can use almost everywhere, right? So You can use him on like clan boss, you can use him in arena, you can use him in dungeons. He's applicable everywhere. And then of course, just for the cherry on top, it's a decreased speed on his A1 that can apply for 2 turns, and it's up to 50% on that. So it's not 100%, but it's an A1, so you know, you get what you get. Then next, and the final champion on the S tier is Lady Annabelle. I do believe she's a part of the Lady Mikage fusion, so that is another benefit to take note of. But Lady Annabelle is really good against the Bommel boss, I think I'm saying that name correctly, on Doom Tower. So if you're not aware, this is a boss that can kind of like drop bombs that explodes and does massive AoE damage. But because they get counted as them like an enemy dying, her passive kicks in and she heals 50% of their max HP every time they die. So she's pretty much unkillable. And then I believe that she can also, you know, exchange her health to other allies if you want to be able to keep them alive, and then she can revive on death from there. So whilst she's very niche, she is paramount for a particularly very difficult boss on Doom Tower. So if you pick her for new players, you're probably not going to get much use out of her right away, but you know, later on down the line, you're going to be very glad that you actually have her. Okay, so let's move on to the next tier, the OK tier pulls that, you know, are A tier or below. And then next is obviously a headline champion. Yes, Aislinn, the Stalwart, is actually not as good as Edward Kenway. Now, he does provide a lot of utility for anyone that is in the Bannerlords, and there are a lot of great champions in the Bannerlords. A good example of that is Mikey from the TMNT event, so he would benefit from this as well. But the reason he's in the OK tier is that whilst he's a very strong tank, especially if you build like a Bannerlord team around him, he's great at keeping your team alive, but it's not really, you know, game changing like Stag Knight and so on and so forth. I think newer players would actually find him more useful than some of the S tiers that I mentioned, just because he provides a lot for a particular faction, but he needs that particular faction to really shine. Otherwise, he's really not that great as a champion on his own. So that's why he's in the OK tier, but he's very up there. You know, he's very close to being an S tier, in at least my opinion. Next up is Minaya. She's got a really good strong aura, which is ally speed in all battles by 19%. These are like one of the strongest auras you can get on champions. But the reason she kind of falls short and isn't in the S tier, despite being a pretty good champion, is because she needs another champion on her A2 to really get the most out of her. So, you know, these debuffs cannot be resisted. The leech and the heal reduction on her A2, if that champion is on her team, as well as her Lover's Sacrifice passive. She can revive, you know, herself with 75% HP when killed if, you know, Coronara is on the same team. I think I'm saying that name right. So yeah, she's a solid healer and support. She would become S tier if she's partnered with Corona. Like the beer, I guess. but on her own, she's just a good healer, right? Rather than being something like great game breaking. So next on the list is actually 2 separate champions. They are Kaija the Rai, as well as Timit the Fool. So the reason you know, these two are on the OK list is just like Minaya. These are 2 champions designed to work together. And, you know, individually, they are decent. Timit is a good crowd controller, for instance, and Kaiju is a good reviver, but they only reach their full godlike potential if they're on the same team. So that's in an OK pull. Final champion on our A tier list is Ulfric. He's in the Epic. He's like a mini Arbiter for Faction Wars. He boosts your team's turn meter with his aura, which is pretty good. It's 15%. You know, it's pretty solid Epic, but besides that, there's nothing really else there to be helping him out. The decreased attack debuffs that get removed is quite nice. Increased attack and continuous heal, you know, it's okay. But the good thing about Ulfric is that he is a part of the Lady Mikage fusion. So if you do pick him, whilst it might be not the best pull you could get, just know that you will eventually need him for the Lady Mikage fusion, which is just here. And you can see him. Whereabouts is he? He's about here somewhere. There he is, right in the bottom left there. And then I believe, isn't Lady Annabelle here, or was I completely wrong? Yeah, Lady Annabelle is not a part of the fusion. I can't believe that. Anyway, going back to the summoning pool, let's talk briefly about the bad pulls. So I'm not going to really dive too much into these champions, but Helior, not that great. He looks cool, but his kit is often considered underwhelming for a legendary, and he can cleanse buffs and transfer them, but he's very inconsistent, so not a great pull. Sigmund the High Shield is next. He's a decent tank for faction wars, providing shields and some control, but he's very slow and doesn't offer enough utility, so again, just for faction wars with this type of champion. Next is Richhoff the Bold. You know, he used to actually be a pretty bad champion, but then he got buffed to be okay, a little bit decent as a poisoner, but compared to like the likes of Edward Kenway, pulling him is probably not going to feel that great. And then the rest you've got here is like Lady Quillin, Sir Artemige, Signy of High Shield, for example, not very good. Lady Quillin, not very good. So there's a good chunk of bad champions here, you know. So again, the rundown is a good pull is 27% of any of these champions. Then an okay pull, A tier and blowers, 49%, so 50% pretty much, half 50-50, and then bad pulls is 25%. So it's not the best summoning pool we've had, especially when like they do these summoning pools where they're all in one faction. They are going to put out some really pretty big significant stinkers. I'd honestly kind of stay away from summoning pools, unless one, you're a new player and you can get a free pull and it's absolutely worth it because you're guaranteed at least an epic, or if there's Wixwell. You know, like Wixwell has been in the last 3 summoning pools, and he's phenomenal. He's like a game-breaking champion for Clan Boss, because at least once you got him, you've pretty much completed the game at that point, really. So, yeah, I'm not really going to pull for this one. But as a new player, if I had the energy and, you know, I was just starting out and I wanted one significant champion, sure, I'd go ahead with this, spend the energy to get it done. But, you know, for intermediate players and veteran players, I'd wait till next month for the anniversary. So yeah, that is the event. Let me know who you pull from this. Did you get yourself Edward Kenway? Because this is probably, you know, the best chance to get him before the guaranteed event, where you're going to need a lot of resources to get him. But yeah, let me know what you get. Put them in the comments down below, and of course, if you want to make a new account with Raid Shadow Legends, use our creator link in the pinned comment down below. You get Elenaril, a poison damage dealer that syncs very well with the starter game champion Kale, who is also a poison damage dealer. Once you use promo code Desert Queen, you get Anorak, which is a brilliant void support that can spread all those poison debuffs on all enemies, as well as keep your teammates alive. And then finally, once you log in for 7 days straight before April 8th, 2026, you get Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed, who is also a poison damage dealer. So you've got a brilliant 4-man team by day 7 if you use our creator link. So what are you doing? Go ahead, click that. Really helps out the channel. But besides that, guys, I've been Charlie. You've been watching Bovine Raid, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.